Hi, and welcome back to the Autoimmune Edible RX podcast. I'm your host, Laura Rodriguez, holistic chef and autoimmune wellness coach with rheumatoid arthritis. And this is a show where I help folks with autoimmunity like you use anti-inflammatory food as medicine to lessen inflammation, reverse autoimmune symptoms, and stop disease progression so you can feel better and get your life back without sacrificing great tasting food or spending all day in the kitchen. If you find yourself hungry for more, check out my free on-demand webinar, Successfully Flare-Free, that I've linked for you in the show notes below. You'll learn my 4-part epic method for successfully making using anti-inflammatory food as medicine a lifestyle change, not just a diet that you give up on after a couple weeks. You'll walk away with a clear path to healing, and you'll learn so many great valuable things. So definitely sign up for that at the link in the show notes below after you listen to today's podcast episode. All right, let's get into it. I think one of the biggest reasons why people struggle to stay consistent with anti-inflammatory eating is because they think it has to look very extreme, right? They think they need to throw away everything in their kitchen. They need to learn how to cook a completely new, different way, overnight. They need to spend hours meal prepping the one day off a week they have, or one of the 2 days off a week they have. And they need to make separate meals for themselves and then for the rest of the family who's not sick. And they need to never eat comforting, delicious, tasty food ever again, right? They have to eat boring, bland diet food like salads and salmon with broccoli and brown rice on repeat, right? And honestly, the second that most people have that picture of healing in their mind, they're already overwhelmed before they even start, right? And I would be too, okay? Because that mindset alone makes everything feel exhausting. But here's what I've learned after doing this for a number of years, okay? The people who actually make this lifestyle stick are not the people who are trying to be the most perfect at it, okay? They're the people who are trying to learn how to make this realistic, right? So instead of forcing your family to try to love anti-inflammatory food like brown rice with salmon and broccoli, which is a super healthy healing meal, but you're not always going to want to eat that. Instead, make the foods that you love anti-inflammatory. Okay, that's the shift that actually makes this doable. Like, for example, if you want to make lasagna, okay, use these ingredients. Organic brown rice lasagna noodles. Jovial is my favorite brand in America. And you can use those one-to-one the way that you would use regular wheat pasta. Now, if you want to food train it, if it's day one of your healthy eating journey and you want something that tastes like regular lasagna noodles, try the Barilla gluten-free noodles. Now, they're going to have corn, and then it's going to be made from like white rice flour. So those two things can cause inflammation for a lot of people versus a brown rice pasta, which is a whole grain, which is inherently less inflammatory, right? But it'll taste very similar to what you're already used to. So you might start with that first, right? You can also incorporate Kite Hill vegan ricotta if you can find it and afford it. Now, it tastes literally just like regular ricotta when it's put into the lasagna. And it just fresh out of the container, it's very reminiscent of ricotta. It tastes very close. But if maybe you can handle dairy and it doesn't cause you any immediate issues, maybe you food chain by starting with an organic ricotta if you can find it, right? A lot of stores are not going to carry an organic ricotta, so you'd have to go to like a Whole Foods or a Sprouts for that. But it's an option, right? Another thing you can use is the Simple Truth vegan shredded mozzarella, which is the best tasting vegan cheese in America, in my opinion. Now, Simple Truth is the generic brand from Kroger, but there are many other Kroger sister stores around the nation that also carry Simple Truth. Or if you can tolerate dairy and it's not a trigger for you right now, or maybe it is a trigger for you, but you want to slowly transition away from putting it in everything, right? So that it actually sticks and it doesn't shock your taste buds and stress out your whole family, you can use organic shredded mozzarella, okay? Another thing you can use is organic, no sugar added marinara sauce. Now, Primal Kitchen has a variety that I love the taste of. It's roasted garlic. But honestly, right now, their pasta sauces are costing like $10 in the US. So I usually buy for my family and recommend that you can buy this too if that's out of your budget. Just a generic brand of pasta sauce, marinara sauce, whatever your local grocery store carries, flip it around and make sure it doesn't have added sugar, okay? And then organic grass-fed ground beef. Grass-fed, grass-finished is a great thing to look for because a lot of times companies are advertising something as grass-fed. However, they're feeding them grains at the very last stage. So you might want to look for grass-fed, grass-finished. But that's a great example. Instead of thinking, oh, I can no longer eat cheesy pasta or lasagna, right? Which is one of my favorite foods. I have to eat salmon and broccoli and brown rice instead. Now we see how we can make a lasagna anti-inflammatory and still enjoy that without flaring. Do you see what I mean? So I am going to link in the show notes below my full lasagna recipe that you can try if you want. Otherwise, you can just make lasagna how you normally make it with those ingredients, okay? Now, boom, there you have it. You've got a delicious, comforting, family-friendly meal that the whole family wants to eat, so you can sit down for a meal together. You're not having salmon separate while they're eating lasagna, right? And it doesn't have all those ingredients that would normally make you flare. Because look, you don't have to just jump to eating boring diet food like salads and chicken and vegetables for an eternity to start feeling better, okay? You just need a way to make the foods that you love in a way that loves your autoimmune body back, okay? Without having to cook and clean all day, of course, because if it takes up too much of your time and energy, you're never going to actually do it, okay? All right. Another thing you need, real talk, is a healthier mindset around all of this, okay? Because this all or nothing thinking, it's either I eat salmon and broccoli and brown rice and chicken and vegetables to get healthy and lower inflammation, or I just eat whatever I want and I live with chronic inflammation. That type of thinking is detrimental to your health. And if you're trying to approach it from a health standpoint, thinking, okay, I can do this, I can eat salads and salmon and broccoli and brown rice and chicken and vegetables, you're going to burn out, okay? What's going to happen is, and I see this all the time, you're going to eat perfectly for a week. Then life's going to get busy. So you're going to eat something off plan. You're going to grab something from a drive-thru or from a restaurant or what have you, right? You're going to pick up a freezer meal. And suddenly you feel like you failed and you have to start all over again on Monday. Here's the thing. Using food as medicine to heal autoimmunity, it's not, I'm not teaching you guys all of this so that you have like a short-term challenge that you can survive through. It's not like a 30-day cleanse, like Whole30. It's not like a 10-day detox, right? This is supposed to be a lifestyle change. And for it to be a lifestyle change, it has to be doable. It has to be practical. It has to be sustainable. It has to be attainable, okay? So that means making quick cooking meals, making simple little ingredient swaps that are less inflammatory. And as I said earlier, food chaining along the way if you have to. Instead of going straight to using Kite Hill ricotta, let me try the organic ricotta and see how that makes me feel. It means having imperfect days and going with the flow and not stressing out about being bad or eating wrong or flaring, right? Because that's going to happen. It's about having family-friendly recipes that you can serve everybody so that you're only making one meal a day and you're sitting down for a relaxing, indulgent, delicious meal as a family and you're having that quality time with one another. It's about consistently coming back and doing better if you do fall off track, which you're going to fall off track. Everybody does, okay? I teach a more realistic approach instead of thinking, oh, I have to eat 100% flare-free in order to feel better. I teach an 80-20 approach, and I talk about that inside of my free webinar. I teach you exactly how to do that, what that looks like, and which foods to eat 80% of the times, and which foods you can indulge in within your own body's threshold, okay, without flaring the other 20%. I teach you all of that inside my free webinar. Because this is the part that people don't understand. And this is the part that literally changes everything for people who want to use food as medicine, but don't want to sacrifice delicious tasting food. They want to be able to go out to dinners with their families on occasion, go out to, the friends gathering, the holiday party, and still eat normal food once in a while, right? So that's why in today's podcast episode, I'm breaking down exactly how I was able to feed my family of 3 for 6 days in a row, okay? Only eating out twice, not because we had to, because we were like, oh, we're too busy, we didn't have anything to make, and there was no food in the fridge. No, because we wanted to. My husband wanted to take us out for breakfast one day, and the other day we wanted Mexican, so we went out to eat, Okay. But I only meal prepped once. And it only took me 80 minutes from start to finish, including majority of the cleanup. I had a few things to clean up at the end. So I'm going to teach you how. Here's how I did it. Here's how I did it and how I recommend you do it. Okay. Number one, order your groceries online. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be possible for everybody, but if you can make this work for you in your area and with the budget that you have, this is a huge help. Okay. And I get a lot of pushback from people about ordering groceries because they're afraid of letting somebody else pick out the groceries for them. But I'm telling you, there are bigger things to worry about, okay, than a tomato that came underripe or an avocado that came overripe. And honestly, I recommend you use Instacart because they're so good with their return policy. If you have an issue with an item, you take a picture of it and you tell them about it and they give you a refund to your credit. You can, I think it's a account credit, or you can choose to have it refunded to your card, but it takes longer that way. Now, obviously, I believe Instacart is only available in America, so depending on where you are in the world, but there are other, I know I have friends that live in South Korea and they order their groceries online. So I know that it is possible. It is an added fee, but in my opinion, the time and energy that you save, and honestly the gas money taking yourself to the store and back, like for us the nearest Kroger is 25 minutes away, so that's an hour I have to spend driving. Okay. And there are certain things I can only get from Kroger, right? So for some things it really it pays for itself, I think. Okay. Now, a little added nuance here. Choose delivery if that's available and you can afford it, because we've all been there where you spend an hour at the grocery store, you lug everything back up into the house, you put everything away, and now you're exhausted. And the last thing you want to do is cook and clean. So you end up ordering a pizza, right? And I don't want that for you because that's only going to reinforce what we're trying to get away from here. Okay. And so reserve your time and energy for meal prepping and just order your groceries online. It takes 10 minutes. My groceries just came and I ordered them from bed this morning while I was drinking my tea. And now I'm ready to meal prep for my client. So it's I'm telling you, it takes a lot off of you. And I hear this a lot from my students. I was very hesitant to try ordering groceries. I didn't want to pay extra. I'm nervous about people picking up my groceries for me. But once they start doing it, they're like, I order my groceries from the airport because I travel a lot for work. And so now I know if I'm on my way home, if I'm waiting for a flight or whatever I'm doing, I'll actually order my groceries on Instacart while I'm waiting for my flight. And then when I come home, it's there and ready for me. Or I can have it come within an hour or two of when I'll be home so that I don't have to leave a cooler out or whatever. It's magic. It is magic. So if you're hesitant about that, like don't snub that and just brush it off and be like, I ain't doing that. Think about it. Consider it because it will help you a lot. Okay. Number 2, organize all of your ingredients by recipe. I say that in quotes, recipes in quotes there if you're listening to this on Spotify, because in my opinion, in my expert professional opinion, you save a lot more time by cooking things that you already have memorized, by cooking by feeling, things you don't have to stop and look down at a recipe and measure to do, okay? So that's why inside of my meal prep solution course, which is a free bonus that everybody gets when they join my autoimmune edible X course and coaching program, which is 52 weeks of live group coaching, I actually teach you how to cook by feeling without measuring, okay? So that you don't have to look down at the recipes, so that you don't have to measure everything in advance. Now, I do include measurements in a lot of the recipes so that when you go back to do those on your own and you're not watching the videos that come in there, because it is 6 weeks of step-by-step video instruction on how to meal prep, breakfast, lunch, 2 dinners plus dessert every week for 6 weeks in a row in 3 hours or less. And one of those hours is spent preparing your kitchen, your recipes, and yourself so that you're ultra organized so that you can do it as quickly as humanly possible. And so really it's only 2 hours. So you're making 16 meals plus dessert in 2 hours, which is insane. And so, and part of the reason why is because you don't have to measure anything. Okay. And a lot of things are already pre-chopped. There's very little chopping involved in that course. And that's a free bonus that you get when you join my course and coaching program. But anyway, I just say that so you understand like where this is coming from. This is not hyperbole. It's not an idea. I've actually developed 12 full weeks of recipes and meal plans and cooking videos that I have taught multiple times. And so I know it works. It's proven. Okay. So for example, like what I mean by that is like, so, you'll see a lot in a lot of recipes and cookbooks and blogs and things where somebody will say 3/4 of a cup of shredded carrots or a half a cup of zucchini or a third of a cup of chickpeas. I do not do that in my recipes. It's half a bag of shredded carrots. It's half of a zucchini or a full zucchini. Usually I try to use the whole thing because I don't want to have a half a zucchini kicking around the fridge. And then also it'll be like a can of chickpeas. We're going to throw the whole can in there. We're not measuring a third of a can of anything. You know what I mean? And so that alone takes away a lot of your time if you're able to cook without having to measure, without having to look down at a recipe, without having to be so precise, right? Okay, number 3, start the longest cooking or longest to cool items first. Okay, so things like soups, which take a long time to simmer, and then they also take a long time to cool. You want to start those first, okay? So then while those things are cooking or while those things are cooling, it's depending on what part of your meal prep stage you're in, you can be working on other things, okay? Like cooking your meals on sheet trays in the broiler so that you can save time, right? That's number 4. Now, obviously, not everything can be cooked on sheet trays in the broiler, but many different components of many different dishes actually can, okay? So, for example, in the 80-minute meal prep that I did last week, where I was able to feed my family for 6 days, I made sloppy joe bowls, Korean bulgogi lettuce wraps with white rice and kimchi, a creamy chicken and vegetable soup, and then a vegetarian zucchini noodle lasagna with lentils, and then a habanero salsa just because we needed hot sauce and I had some habaneros in the freezer. So obviously the rice, the soup, and the lentils, things that need to be boiled, I couldn't make those on sheet trays in the broiler, but literally everything else I did. Okay, so the sloppy joe meat, the roasted potatoes I made for the sloppy joe bowls, that got done on sheet trays in the broiler. The meat for the Korean bulgogi lettuce wraps, the zucchini that I used as zucchini noodles for the lasagna, and then all of the veggies, the habaneros, the onions, the garlic, all that stuff that I roasted for the salsa, all of that was made on sheet trays in the broiler. And this is the secret to cooking and cleaning in half the time. This is the method that I developed when I was at rock bottom in my health for a second time in 2020, after 2.5 years of being a full-time private chef for a country music star, and I could barely walk. I couldn't stand on my feet. I had stools all over the kitchen so that I could sit while cooking, sit while chopping, sit while washing dishes because I was in so much intense chronic pain and my inflammation was through the roof. So I was like, how can I get back to feeling better by using food as medicine without cooking and cleaning all day long? Because I could not stand on my feet. And after 2.5 years of cooking from 6:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night, I didn't want to do it anymore, right? So that's when I started experimenting with cooking on sheet trays in the broiler. And after it's been 6 years since I developed this method, I can tell you this is the secret to cooking and cleaning in half the time. Not using a pressure cooker, not using an Instapot, and not using an air fryer because those things are small. Yes, those are things that you can use in addition to, but they're too small to batch cook a multitude of different things. Depending on the size of your oven, because here's the thing, guys, the broiler is just a 500-degree oven. Okay. So depending on the size of your oven and depending on the size of your sheet trays, a lot of times I can fit 4 to 6 and how many racks you have in your oven. That's another thing. I've actually had some of my clients for my personal chef clients buy me extra racks for their ovens so that I can add more racks and add more sheet trays and cook more food. So depending on the size of your oven, how many oven racks you have, and the size of your sheet trays and how many sheet trays you have, you can potentially fit up to 6 to 8 different sheet trays in the oven at the same time. Now, obviously, the more you're putting in the broiler, the more you have to maintain. So this comes with practice, and I'm able to do it because I've been cooking professionally since 2010 or something like that. So I've been doing this a very long time. But all that to say, this is the fastest, easiest, most stress-free way to do it, okay? And here's the thing, because here's tip number 5. While the broiler is doing the majority of the cooking for you, okay, because this is a very hands-off way of cooking. Things are evenly spread out on sheet trays, and the broiler is doing the cooking. So at best, depending on what it is, like for the bulgogi, I'm adding onions, garlic, soy sauce, monk fruit sweetener, sesame oil, scallions. So there are some flavorings in there. So I might get in the broiler a couple times and mix it up to make sure it's all cooking evenly, but I don't have to do that for everything. The zucchini noodles, for example, for the lasagna, I put them in the broiler for 10 minutes and I walk away. That's it. Okay. So while the broiler is doing the cooking for you, that frees up time for you to turn your back and work on other things, like preparing the cold elements of a dish, making a sauce, making a salad, whatever, right? Cooling and packaging your meals, and of course, cleaning up the kitchen. So by the time I was done cooking and packaging everything, I only had 3 sheet trays and a couple small pots to rinse off and toss in the dishwasher. Everything else had been cleaned up. Okay. So the result of that was I was able to feed my family of 3 for 6 days straight. Well, 7 days technically, because I had a lunch for the seventh day. Um, Almost all of our meals, except for 2, because we wanted to go out to dinner and we wanted to go out to breakfast, without having to do a big cook and clean again. Okay. All I had to do was reheat our meals in the oven. You can use a microwave if you have one of those, makes it even faster. And then wash the meal prep containers and a fork. I mean, it's a total no brainer. This is the secret to eating flare-free consistently, okay? And it's part of my 4-part EPIC method. It's EPIC, so it's the C in my EPIC method. Cook flare-free consistently with speed and ease, because if it takes up all your time and energy, you're not going to do it. Therefore, you won't be consistent with it, okay? Now, reminder, flare-free means gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy, peanut-free, and anti-inflammatory healing meals. So there's no seed oils, there's no conventional meat and eggs, there's no farmed fish, no high glycemic sugar replacements or, chemical sugar replacements, right? And if we're using gluten and dairy alternatives, we try to use the most nutritious that we can find, okay? Because it's not enough to just eat a bunch of ultra processed packaged foods and say, I'm gluten and dairy free, right? A lot of that stuff is full of seed oils, which can contain trace amounts of trans fats, which has been found to trigger autoimmunity. A lot of those things are made with high glycemic refined flours like white rice flour, potato starch, tapioca starch, etc. And refined foods and high glycemic foods all cause inflammation, right? And of course, a lot of packaged and processed foods have sugar. They're full of sugar or chemical sugar replacements, things like sorbitol, dextrose, etc. Okay, sugar is one of the most inflammatory things we can eat. Blood sugar spikes cause inflammation, and sugar causes blood sugar spikes. So it's flare-free is basically the Mediterranean diet on crack, is what I like to call it. Okay. It's vegetables, it's fish, it's lean meats, it's low glycemic fruits and vegetables, but it's also gluten-free, right? It's dairy-free and it's sugar-free. Now, you can work within your own body's personal threshold for how much you can tolerate to sprinkle in a little gluten here and there, depending on your condition. Sprinkle in a little sugar here and there, sprinkle in a little bit of dairy here and there. And most people can get away with that, depending on your condition, right? Folks with Hashimoto's, they want to stay away from soy and dairy. Folks with rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Hashimoto's, lupus, they want to stay away from gluten. Okay, and there's reasons for that. And I talk about this inside my program, but as you can see, okay, eating healthy so that you can lessen inflammation, reverse your autoimmune symptoms, stop disease progression, stop another second or a third diagnosis from forming, or God forbid, something worse. It doesn't require cooking every night, okay? And meal prepping doesn't have to take all day. It just doesn't. If you follow these tips, you can make a lot of delicious, healthy, nutritious, anti-inflammatory healing food in a little amount of time, okay? And that makes eating healthy consistently doable, okay? Because using food as medicine only works if you do it consistently. And this method makes it possible for you. So just to recap really quickly so that you can actually go home and do this for yourself, okay? Here's how I meal prepped food for my family of 3 to eat on for 6.5 days straight in just 80 minutes. Order your groceries online. Organize your ingredients by recipe so you can cook quickly and you can stay organized, right? Start the longest cooking items or the longest cooling items first. Cook anything that you can on sheet trays in the broiler so you can cut your cook time in half. Then, while things are cooking in the broiler, you can do other things. You can be prepping cold dishes and sauces. You can be packaging your meals. You can be cleaning the kitchen. All right, if you want to learn more about how to do this, how to identify and classify your food triggers so that you can eat out on occasion without flaring, how to peacefully transition away from your current diet by food chaining, which is the act of slowly connecting foods that your family already knows and loves until you get to the healthiest, cleanest, most anti inflammatory version at the end, how to do my broiler sheet tray method of cooking, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes below to register for my free on-demand webinar. It's called Successfully Flare Free, and this is not just a, you know, I need to come up with a different name for it because it's really not just a webinar. You hear webinar, you think, I don't know. It's really, it's a master class. It's a whole mini course. It teaches you everything you need to know to successfully eat flare-free consistently enough to actually heal so that you're not giving up on it after a couple weeks and relapsing and end up at rock bottom in your health again, like I did twice in my life, and constantly on this roller coaster ride of autoimmune flare-ups that you can't seem to get off of, right? It's going to help you bring the whole family along with you and so much more. So I really need to call it something else, but for right now, it's called webinar. And you can sign up for it at the link in my show notes below. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with someone you love, or maybe leave the show a rating or a review. It really helps other folks with autoimmunity hear this message. And autoimmunity is on the rise globally. It's rising at a rate of 12.5% on average per year. So who knows, by sharing this podcast episode with somebody or leaving a rating or a review and helping somebody else find it, you could be helping to save a life. So I'll see you guys on the podcast again soon. If there's one thing that you can do for your health today, please, please, please eat your damn vegetables, okay? It really makes a difference in healing your gut, lessening your inflammation, and helping you get off that roller coaster ride of food-driven autoimmune flare-ups that I was just talking about. Okay, until next time, guys. Bye.